Earlier this week, we read two stories, Why Mosquitoes Buzz in People's Ears, and we also read Feathers and Fools. Today, we're going to do a little bit of writing about our reading, and we're going to do some thinking about how these two stories are alike and how these two stories are different. So what I'm going to ask you is just pause for a second and kind of jog your memory. What do you remember about both of those stories? And then on my paper, I'm going to go ahead in my notebook and I'm just going to make two columns, just a place for me to get my thinking down before I start writing. And so the first one I'm going to put is how the stories are alike. And then the next column I'm going to title how the stories are different. And so what I'm going to ask you to do now is go ahead and pause this recording and take some time to think about how are the stories, the two stories that we read this week, similar, and how might they be different. And try to get a couple of bullet points down or a couple of ideas down for each of these. When you have a couple of ideas down, go ahead and resume the video and then we'll talk about how we're going to write them. All right. So hopefully you were able to identify a couple of ways that the two stories are alike and a couple of ways that the two stories are different. We're going to go ahead and start writing a paragraph in which we compare and contrast the two stories. I'm going to go ahead and model for you how I might start this and share my thinking out loud, and then I'm going to invite you to go ahead and fill in some of this thinking and to write along with me. So go ahead to the next clean space in your notebook. And I know that when I write this, the first thing that I'm going to want to do is I'm going to want to describe some of the things that are similar about the two stories. So I might start by writing off like this. And remember, I'm indenting because it's a paragraph. The stories, why mosquitoes buzz in people's ears, and I'm going to go back and underline it because it's the title of a story. And what's the other one? And Feathers and Fools. And I'm going to underline that as well. And did you notice how I capitalized the important words in the title? So I'll start with the stories why people buzz in people's ears, why mosquitoes buzz in people's ears, and Feathers and Fools. And I'm going to end this with are alike in many ways. So this is my topic sentence. Okay, so now that I told my reader that I'm going to tell you about how they're alike in many ways, I need to go ahead and explain that. So my sentence starter might look something like this. For example, and then I'm going to go ahead and add a way that these two stories are alike. So I'm going to invite you to press pause right here and go ahead and look at your chart and add an idea for ways that the two stories are the same. I'm going to add another idea. I might say, so for example, here's one way, and then I might go ahead and add, to introduce another way that they're the same, I might use the starter in addition, and then put another idea there about how they are the same. So now that I've talked about how they are the same, I want to make sure that I include some ways that they are different as well. So then I'm going to go ahead, after I have my line here, I might say something like the two stories are also different. In punctuation. And so I'm going to use the same stem that I did at the beginning, for example, and then I'll go ahead and explain some ways that the two stories are different. So I'm going to invite you to go ahead and press pause and go ahead and add a detail or two about how the two stories are different. I might end my paragraph with something like this. In conclusion, the two stories have similarities and differences. And that's a nice way just to wrap that paragraph up.